SABC News political reporter Natasha Piri joins us now for some reaction. Natasha, very good evening to you. The IEC has described these elections as those which have tested their strength at the most difficult and the most highly contested yet. What is the reaction on the ground?
Definitely. I'll start off with the reactions rather coming from Dr. Pieter Groenewald here of the Freedom Front Plus. And you know, you played a very interesting clip there of President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that whether you like it or not, the people have spoken. We must respect their choices and their wishes. And this is in light of what we've been seeing. No one political party actually got an outright majority. And when it comes to the National Assembly, 4 more political parties will be going to the National Assembly, number up to 18. But let's just speak to Dr. Pieter Groenewald. Also, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I just want to quiz you on this. I mean, we were all looking at the leaderboard when we saw those figures, and unfortunately this year's turnout is 58.61%. as compared to 2019 of 66%. So meaning out of the 27.7 million people that are on the voters roll, over 16 million people voted.
Yes, that has always been a problem. And in my campaign during the election, I tried to explain to the electorate that your vote counts and it's very important. And I've used the example, if you go back to 2019, the ANC had a majority of 58% in the National Assembly, but they only received the support of 27% of eligible voters. The problem is that the electorate does not understand the worth of their votes. So it is disappointing, but the results are there, and that is how a democracy works. The majority, you have a majority, or you receive the votes you receive, and then you must continue.
Let's just talk about your party's performance. Surely you had aimed higher than what you actually got.
Yes, that's true. We do not shy away from the realities and the truth, but I want to say, I'm very optimistic and I see forward to the 7th Parliament, because you won't have a governing party like the ANC who must use their majority to make the National Assembly a rubber stamp of the ANC. You won't have a majority party who can misuse it to protect the leaders. I'm going to request, when we get back in Parliament, that the panel report on the Pala issue be reintroduced in the National Assembly. And if it is accepted, then there's going to be a committee, and the President will have to appear before that committee for cross-questioning and to get the real facts. So what I say, although we did not as good as we wanted to, of course.
And what do you attribute that to?
What do you attribute that to? What are we actually going to do?
No, what do you attribute, you as the FF Plus, not you?
Okay, sorry. What we attribute is to say that we, as an opposition party, will play a major role in terms of taking hands with other political opposition parties to ensure that we hold the executive accountable to Parliament, like a constitutional democracy requires from the National Assembly. So that will be our contribution to ensure that we are a stable political party. Our policies and our views is well known, and we will stick to those principles, because we do believe if you have accountable executive, that they will act in the best interest of the people of South Africa. And I also want to say, the Freedom Front Plus will do everything to ensure that the MK Party and the EFF does not become part of a government of unity or a coalition government. So there are different ways we can use our vote in Parliament to prevent that. And we will explore all those possibilities to ensure that they will not be part of a government.
Talking about your coalition talks, I know that the MPC met, but I mean, you look at the biggest parties, you look at the FF Plus, you look at the DA, you look at the IFP. Those 3 political parties got the lion's share of the votes within the multi-party charter. some political parties have started coming to members of the media complaining, feeling as if they've been left out by, the top three parties. Also on talks of who will be the president, what are the negotiations. It's no secret that the FF Plus had actually endorsed or preferred Mr. Velenkosi Nhlabisa of the IFP to actually be, the president.
If you say endorsed, you must remember what I said, that there are possibilities, and I've mentioned his name as a possibility. But I also said, you can't now endorse finally because you still have to wait, and I said at that time, depending on what other opposition parties get representation in Parliament, because a coalition is only formed after the election, and then it depends who are the leaders there and availability. I've referred specifically to the Charter. But answering your question, there must be no doubt that the Charter played a major role in convincing the electorate that it is possible to get the ANC below 50%. And that's exactly one of our aims in the multi-party charter, and we succeeded with that. Now we have a different situation. We did not succeed with a opposition coalition government, but there should be a bit restructuring amongst the opposition party leaders to see how they can still work together to ensure that on specific legislation, for instance, motions or whatever the case may be, that they can still take hands and work together as a collective to ensure that that accountability is ensured.
Dr. Groenewald, would you be willing to work with the ANC?
No, I said that we will not work with the ANC. But if I say that we will do anything to prevent the MK and the EFF to become part of a coalition government, you must remember there are different ways, as I said now, where you can use your vote. For instance, if they elect a president, we can decide whether we're going to support a specific nomination or not. And that can play a major role in the difference of who is going to be the president, to take one example. But be assured, we will do everything to prevent a combination of a government with those two parties.
Dr. Groenewald, you've seen yesterday the various briefings. You've heard other political parties, the MK, saying that the nation actually needs to go to the polls again. They don't trust the credibility of the electoral process, despite, the IEC declaring these elections as free and fair. Other political parties, on the other hand, have called for a recount. Earlier on, I was speaking to your counterpart from the PAC, and amongst those voting stations or voting districts, where, there have been recounts, he tells me that the numbers of the FF Plus actually went higher, as well as the numbers of the PAC.
Yes, it's true. Remember, there was a permission from the Electoral Commission to say that we had time till 6 o'clock last night. It was a very short time. We submitted 19 specific voting stations for a recount, and when we analyzed 7 of them after we got the final results, we found that more than 2,000 votes for the Freedom Front Plus was allocated to other parties. Let me give you a specific example. In the Pretoria North City Hall, 374 votes of what was brought to the Freedom Front Plus. When it was captured on the system, we got 0, and it was captured to the benefit of the ANC. So there are problems. The question in the end of the day is, will it have a material effect on the outcome? That will be very difficult to prove that. And to just ask for a total recount, that will not be that simple. I don't think a court, you will have to bring very good evidence to say it may have a material difference. So, but we will look at all the possibilities, and if we think that we have a good case, then it is not outruled that we will approach a court.
Dr. Groenewald, thank you so much. I do believe that my colleague Mbalenhle Mthethwa is joined by the Mayor of Johannesburg, Kabelo Nkwamanda, and this is as we toss to you, Mbalenhle.
Right, Natasha Phiri there speaking to the Freedom Front Plus.